Cyber Uncut. Discover the changing face of business, government and national security as Australia navigates the cyber revolution.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for listening in. This is the Cyber Uncut podcast. My name is David Hollingworth. I'm Deputy Editor of Cyber Daily, and I'm joined by my indefatigable companion. I did it again.
Yeah, Daniel Croft.
Yes,
there we go.
Excellent. Well, as always, what a week. And what a week in AI. We've actually got some good AI news this week. It's actually quite positive. And I hate to say, it's actually some positive Trump-related news.
I was going to say, that is like that never happens here. We're praising a decision.
Okay, so, and this is not Donald Trump, it's Melania Trump.
Well, it's kind of both of them. So pretty much Trump has passed the Take It Down Act, which is pretty much an act that at a federal level is banning deepfake porn and like explicit, AI-generated revenge porn, that kind of thing.
Yep.
Now, this is something that First Lady Melania Trump has been a massive advocate for. Since Trump got back into office and she resumed the role as First Lady, she's been going to Congress and lobbying for this and really, really passionate about this, and it has now been passed into law. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of the states already outlaw this kind of content, which, great, but this is the first time it's kind of been introduced at a federal level, which is huge. So...
Because it's a growing problem worldwide. It's certainly a problem here in Australia. We've seen
massively.
Multiple instances of, especially in schools, of deepfake-based imagery that's been used to both harass and be passed around. And it's definitely a growing problem. And it's good to see it being addressed at such a high level. Yeah,
well, the kind of an overarching bit of legislation just outlawing it. So anyone who creates and distributes it, they can face pretty hefty punishments. It can be like jail time and fines and all sorts. But it's also placing kind of the onus on social media platforms to kind of moderate this. So social media platforms and other online organizations have a 48-hour window following notice from a victim to remove the content, and they're required to make an effort to remove any duplicate content.
That sounds like something that Elon Musk would probably be angry about.
Well, it doesn't sound like Trump and Elon are best mates.
You do make a very fine point there, don't you?
And, Zuckerberg and everything seems to be pretty much happy with what Trump says.
That kind of thing's been a bone of contention between, our own government authorities and the big social media giants in the US about taking down content in a timely manner.
Yeah.
And now those takedown requests are coming from inside the house.
Yeah. So, it's definitely a pretty polar opposite to...
Yeah, it really is.
This content must stay up from the
free speech absolutists, radical free speech, all of that.
Yeah, until it's critical of the
good because
of the president. But
some speech isn't.
We're trying to be positive about him for once. So
no, it's definitely a very, very welcome move. And continuing on the good news AI front, this one's a bit closer to home. The New South Wales government has said it's going to be relying upon artificial intelligence to look into housing supply and construction analysis to work out backlogs, to streamline processes, find out where things are going wrong. And to do that, they're working with the UNSW's City Futures Research Centre, which is just being set up, the Housing Analytics Lab, which has got $1 million grant to do this. And it's in some ways it's probably not very exciting. As a renter for life, I'm
holding out
to where I am.
I'm holding out hope.
You, however, you have hope for that housing backlog and that housing crisis to actually solve itself somehow.
Yeah.
And look, throwing the problem towards AI is probably not the worst thing. It's going to be set up in Tech Central in South Everleigh here in Sydney, in Redfern.
Yep.
And I love what Chris Minns. So Minns has spent nearly all of this week just talking about the horrific floods throughout New South Wales. But he had a bit of time to talk about this, and he said, we will listen to it, we will grab data from it, we will implement it for positive change, which is, a pretty positive thing.
Yeah. It's a rarity that AI seems to be getting used for positive change as well, which is kind of the whole idea,
and it's also
right?
Part of the Hub's program is to build up a digitally savvy housing workforce, which we really quite lack.
Yeah.
It's real bricks and mortar stuff, but it is, well, a lot of people, tend to poo-poo AI to a degree, or say it's a bubble, it's about to burst, or people relying upon AI or Gen AI are using it as a crutch. This is a valid use case.
Yeah, it is.
It's a highly valid use case.
And as we've discussed before, there are definitely valid use cases. I think a lot of people are either of the opinion that AI is the future, which I would agree with, but accept it, give it everything it has. And then there are people who are like, I'm writing off AI completely, which is, you don't get me wrong, there's a lot of kind of evidence to suggest that might be the best thing. But at the same time, people have kind of, for a lack of better term, poo-pooed the idea of things like the internet and previous, transformative technologies.
Well, I mean, you can take it all the way back to, I don't know, the written word. Yeah.
The idea of the printing press.
Yeah.
So obviously a bit more forward than the written word, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good to see, AI being used to tackle a very serious problem.
Absolutely. And a problem which is, can be hopefully uniquely solved by AI, because there's huge amounts of data to look at, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Historical planning, future planning, all of that. That's a lot of data.
Yeah.
And, if it comes up with a solution that gets, more houses built faster, I'd say that's a good outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. After that, we're going to take a short break. We'll be back with you very shortly. Welcome back to Cyber Uncut. He's Dan. I'm Dave.
Yeah.
I don't often call myself Dave. It always feels weird.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that again, I don't think. All right. So now we're in the meat and potatoes. Let's talk hacks. Let's talk UK. Let's talk Marks and Spencer.
Yeah. So this is an interesting one. I'm currently writing it up.
Yeah.
So by the time you listen to this, it'll be published.
Yeah.
So Marks and Spencer has identified that...
Bit of background, perhaps. So
yeah, okay, cool.
In case you're just listening to this one, a hacker who may or may not be Scattered Spider or Scattered Spider using DragonForce ransomware or DragonForce themselves, depending upon who you listen to, has been targeting a whole mess of big-name UK retail chains and with quite catastrophic results in some cases as well. So we've been Dan more accurately has been following all of this quite heavily. Yeah. And this is the latest wrinkle in it.
Yeah, so pretty much Marks and Spencer's, Co-op, Harrods, all kind of seem to have had cyber attacks that are very, very similar, particularly M&S and Co-op, which we know a bit more about.
Yeah.
And now M&S is, after admitting that data's been lost, like Co-op, and Co-op's gone off and had a pretty quick recovery because they stopped ransomware, which is something we will touch on later.
We will, yes.
Marks and Spencer's did not get so lucky. What they have confirmed is that the breach was a result of a third party.
Yep.
Now,
supply chain hack.
This is brand new information, usually something that gets identified pretty quickly when this kind of stuff happens. But it's been nearly 5 weeks. We have 4 weeks.
About that, yeah.
Yeah. And they've finally confirmed, based on reports by media. Cyber News did a really, really good report on it. So, shout out to them.
Yep.
They have confirmed with them, yes, this was a third-party incident.
Yeah.
Now, they did not name who the vendor was.
Yeah.
They said that there was phishing attempts on this third-party vendor after they tried to get into its systems, the old-fashioned way, breach its network. They went, right, we're going to go to a third-party, phishing attempts, account logins, boom, there we go.
Yep.
And that's how it apparently occurred. Now, Marks and Spencer, like I said, did not confirm who the vendor was, but inside sources speaking with Reuters and Cyber News have said that it was Tata Consulting Services. So digital uplift and transformation consulting firm based in India.
All billable hours,
Massive, massive company. They are also, customers of theirs include, like Sainsbury's, I believe, Aldi, Tesco, and Co-op. Whose cyber attack was near identical from as far as I can see. Don't know if that's how the Co-op incident occurred. Don't know if this is connected.
We're in early days of investigating this link.
Absolutely, we are.
And had Tata previously been breached?
I can't say for certain off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I think I remember seeing, because Tata is a big company. They've got divisions that make cars and everything like that. I do remember seeing a kind of business side kind of subsidiary of Tata listed somewhere a couple months ago. It very well could have been this.
As I said, this is an ongoing investigation.
It is, I'm in the middle of writing this one at the moment. You know, we know that the UK National Security Centre is involved with all three retailers.
Yep.
They've been unable to say if this Co-op and M&S thing are the same with Tata. But yeah, really,
it's
really
suggestive, isn't it?
Rather than getting more answers, I continue to get more questions with this one.
This has been happening since this story started to break. It's wild. I mean, the attribution angle alone is crazy. Depending on who you talk to, it's 3 different possible outcomes. Scattered Spider alone, Scattered Spider using DragonForce ransomware, or DragonForce themselves, and it seems to change from day to day.
Yeah, well, it started off with Scattered Spider using DragonForce ransomware, then everyone just said, no, it's DragonForce. Now it's back to Scattered Spider, and, you know, we've theorized that, you know, DragonForce, Scattered Spider could be working together. They could be part of DragonForce's new partner program. We don't know.
Further confusing matters is the fact that Scattered Spider doesn't have its own dark web presence anywhere.
They're not a ransomware group. They're a hacking collective, meaning it could have been a couple of the guys that have done it. You know, so it's hard.
And the data's not showing up anywhere. So normally, you know, we would get an alert like we do every morning and evening and throughout the night when a company when their details get published on a darknet leak site, and Co-op, Harrods, M&S haven't seen hide nor hair of that data. So the big question I have is, like, what are they doing with the data? Well, are they holding on to it?
It's a weird thing.
Is it too hot to publish?
Because it was a weird thing. All 3 retailers said, don't worry about changing passwords or anything, which terrible advice.
I would change passwords.
I would change passwords. I would be monitoring
all of
my
that.
bank account, everything. They also said no financial information, I believe, was exfiltrated.
I mean, the thing is, about once they say that, if it ends up wrong, boy, are they in trouble.
Well, they said no meaningful financial data was exfiltrated, but then there was a case, can't verify if this is true, but a user on X said, I had a call from someone pretending to be from M&S, gave me the last 4 digits of my, you know.
And, you know, no meaningful data. Well, what does that actually mean? What do they consider not meaningful data? Because for a lot of people, the last 4 digits of their credit card is meaningful data because it gives authority to the person calling.
Yeah, and also they're part of the majorly unique part. You know, like, so that was poor advice.
It is. But going into Co-op, they took the right action. And I think this is something that we really should, you know, the right, good, praiseworthy action. And that was to basically, we're under attack, shut it down, shut it all down.
Yeah. So there's this massive contrast between Marks and Spencer's and Co-op here. So Marks and Spencer's is actually facing a £300 million revenue loss at the moment. I read somewhere that it was costing them £43 million a week. While Co-op, yes, they had no stock on their shelves and it was a disaster for a couple of weeks, stock's coming back on shelves.
They've recovered.
They've started to really get to a good meaty part of their recovery. And it's all because when it was identified that there was some sort of cyber incident, they just shut everything off straight away. There was no delay, no worry about we're going to lose revenue here.
And what that tells me is they have a cybersecurity playbook that they've run the numbers on. They've tabletopped it. They've worked. They know what to do instantly. There's no panic. They've rehearsed it. Done it, and the proof is in the pudding. They're getting their operation back on.
I will say, all of these companies should have massive backups because that also solves this issue. Because the issue here, obviously, is ransomware encrypts. And M&S is dealing with a bunch of encrypted systems. Co-op is not, because they beat the ransomware to the punch. But backups, please. Backups, because that'll have the same effect.
But yeah, I mean that quick thinking and clear thinking as well is absolutely key in being able. The difference between £43 million a week and getting back to business, isn't it?
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, Co-op's obviously suffered losses. They're going to be facing a bunch of kind of their legal obligations because data's been exfiltrated and everything like that. But they're going to be starting to make revenue again. M&S, I can't imagine is making really any, because online orders are completely off. Click and collect is completely off. I'm pretty sure they may have stock issues, I think. So it means in-store stuff is going to be difficult, if that's even possible. Now, they do operate all around the world.
Yeah, and M&S Australia is affected as well, aren't they?
Their site's down.
So we're looking at a global loss of revenue here.
Like, who knows? I don't know if their brick-and-mortar stores are still in operation in the UK. That very well could be the case. But seeing as they operate internationally, a huge portion of their revenue is just been cut off. So I can't imagine they're doing too great
The
or
difference
making enough
couldn't
to
be
make
more
their...
stark, could it?
No, it's a polar opposite. And a great example of, having, like you said, a brilliant playbook to respond to a cyber incident, and being calm, collected, and quick.
Yeah.
And this is the perfect textbook example.
Having spoken to a number of specialists in this field, you shouldn't be surprised about anything that happens when you come under cyber attack. Everything should have been gamed beforehand. Everybody from the board to receptionists should know what the response plan is.
Absolutely.
And there's no confusion. In fact, there's no need to go up to the board and go, "Hey, boss, we should shut down." No, boss has already given you permission to shut down.
Yeah.
If X, Y, and Z happens, the minute that happens, everybody's in agreement. It's a bad time. Shut it down.
If there's a fire in your building, you don't need permission from the CEO to pull the fire alarm.
You couldn't put it clearer than that. Yeah.
You just do it.
Yeah. Speaking of fire alarms, there was a bit of a fire alarm closer to home this week when there were, we saw this last night, a number of headlines saying that hackers had gotten into the ATO, which is, it's not a great thing you want to hear about.
No.
But as often when it's the mainstream media talking about this, there's a bit more subtlety to it, isn't there?
Yeah, we do often find that the kind of reporting that, like, we specifically write about this, but obviously big stuff is going to get reported by mainstream media, and they're covering a range of different topics. And some of the subtleties of writing cyber do sometimes get lost. Now, following this mainstream reporting that the ATO had hackers in its systems, the ATO quickly came out and said, no hackers are in our systems.
Yeah.
That is not the case. Our systems are secure. However,
nonetheless, money has been lost. People are unhappy because it looks like it's a case of good old-fashioned identity theft.
Yeah, people have been stealing tax accounts and then making false tax returns and redirecting the funds to
different accounts,
the scammers or threat actors' account.
Yeah.
And now this is not just a couple. This looks like a pretty widespread issue. And so while the ATO may be able to say its systems are secure, there is a systematic
there are process
issue
issues here.
Yeah. This is not we're off the hook thing. This needs to be addressed.
Yeah. So people will be getting these identities, passwords, logins, what have you, in the same way that they would have for the recent super hacks.
Yeah.
Through previous data breaches, quite possibly through phishing.
Credential stuffing.
Credential stuffing attacks, all kinds of things. They could do this, but mostly it's going to be scammers doing this. No one's hacking the Gibson, to use a phrase. Can the ATO do more? Absolutely, I would say.
Yeah. It's an interesting one because I could be absolutely mistaken on this, but I'm pretty sure when dealing with, the ATO, multi-factor is mandatory. Maybe I could be completely wrong on that. From memory, it is. Absolutely happy to be wrong on that one, though. Anyway, we got spoken to by Alex Chernyakov at CBG, and he kind of raised the concerns about this being.
Yeah, what did he have to say?
Yeah, so he said the recent reports of over $14,000 in tax returns fraudulently redirected through compromised MyGov accounts have rightly raised alarm bells. I can't read. These are not isolated events. They reveal systemic vulnerabilities in how we protect and verify identity data in the digital age. While the ATO has stated its systems remain secure and resilient, the real concern is how phishing continues to bypass human and procedural safeguards. And he also said that the government needs to be doing more. Digital ID, great. This would be a great solution. Can we hurry up? Is
Absolutely.
pretty much what he said. And that is very much a very valid thing to say.
No, 100%. Even as you were reading that out, I was thinking, you know what would solve this? A really good, robust digital ID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we've been talking about it for a while now.
It's interesting talking about that identity theft angle because story I wrote up this morning, the ACMA has previously levied the largest fine ever in excess of $400,000, and the company has now paid it. It's a company called Circle.life.
Yep.
They're a telco SIM card provider, and in January and February of 2024, scammers were able to transfer phone numbers into their name. And once they had the phones, because no one at Circle.life or their third-party provider, which is where the issue was doing proper identity verification checks, which meant scammers now had, so it meant if I was a scammer, I had transferred your mobile number to my name. I was logging into your bank account. I was getting the MFA check and I was taking money, $44,000 worth. So it's easy to think that that kind of activity combined with what we're seeing with super funds and the ATO, suddenly you're bypassing MFA entirely.
Wow.
Which is why that kind of identity verification at a telco level is so essential.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's related, but Circle.life is going out of business in Australia and passing all of its customers over to a MaySim. Related? Who knows?
It's, I'm sure a lot of those customers knowing about that would probably leave voluntarily.
Yeah. But it's interesting because it's all part of, the kill chain in how this identity data is gathered and how scammers will get a username, they'll get a login, they'll get a password, they'll get some identity data. Then they can start targeting and going, okay, I'll try and steal that number, And once they get all the pieces in place, the final part of that kill chain is logging into your super fund, logging into your ATO. And as some people have said, and rightly, maybe there should be more checks if suddenly a year-old tax statement is changed by the person who put it in when it was last put in by their tax agent. Maybe there should be more checks and balances in when somebody, for no apparent reason, changes their account.
Yeah.
Especially if it's going to an offshore account. But I imagine another part of this kill chain would be that money would go into that initial account and immediately be transferred offshore.
Yeah.
And that is standard practice for a lot of these bank financial fraud. Someone in Australia is being paid a portion of the profit to host a legitimate account, and they're just the middleman. Money goes in, they keep 10%, or even 1% was enough, it's still money, and then it goes offshore, never to be seen again.
Yeah.
So, I think it was the Australian who was talking about, ATO isn't talking about filing charges or arresting anyone. That money isn't in Australia anymore.
No.
I'm quite sure.
Yeah, and in talking about arresting someone, good luck finding who did it.
Good luck finding who did it. And this is the issue. It is hard.
Yeah, that's not me putting any slamming our law enforcement.
No.
Our law enforcement is, as we see by their participation in some of the biggest ransomware takedowns and global activity,
as we saw from the representative of New South Wales Police who came along to our cyber summit a couple of weeks ago, who
eye-opening.
The sheer scale of what New South Wales Police alone do to fight this. Oof.
Yeah. No, it's very much a thing of finding these people with layers and layers of anonymity and a massive geographical limitation for us and the hiding spots all around the globe they could be.
Yeah.
It's just
and these are highly organised operations as well.
Yeah,
as we've seen the AFP working with Philippines law enforcement taking down what they called a scam compound.
Yeah.
When I hear that, I think of high walls and buildings and people chained
barbed
to desks.
wire.
And these were running romance scams.
Yeah.
And it was a romance scam call center. Just dozens, hundreds, I don't know, of people sitting at their computers. Probably, and it would look like a call center. They're sitting at their computers. They've got a script in front of them. They've got a headset on, and they're working through the script. In fact, the AFP has shared some of these scripts that they recovered. And the heartbreaking story of I'm going through a messy divorce. He's taking my money. If you could help me. And they're targeting largely older Australian men who are looking for the perfect thing, and this is too good to be true, and it is, and before you know it, they lose money to this highly organized offshore operation.
And I also want to point out, a lot of these kind of scam operations, from what I've heard, they're actually really sad. In terms of the people working there, a lot of the time these are legitimate people looking to go and find work.
Yeah.
They get this job, they go into an office, they get either trapped by financial things or physical restriction or things like that, and then they're forced to work and scam people to escape.
Yeah.
And it's really dark. It's really horrible.
Yeah. There's a lot of human trafficking involved.
Yeah.
So there's just layers and layers and layers of crimes going on that, we worry about the money taken from someone's super fund or stolen from someone's tax return. And if I lost money like that, I'd be upset.
Yeah.
But there are so many other layers of crime through this and other victims of it as well at every stage. And it's just right at the very top, the people who are making all the money.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll come back with some happy news.
Yeah.
You know what you're in for listening to Cyber Uncut right after this break. Welcome back. I'm David.
I'm Dan.
And you're listening to Cyber Uncut. And we're going to finish with a story which is a good story.
It is.
It's about some bad stuff, but mostly it's a good story. So there's a website that Dan and I use, and I recommend anybody listening also make use of this. HaveIBeenPwned.
It is. It's also like, look, for no other reason, go and check it because it's either a bit of fun.
Yeah.
You know, you get to find out that you're safe. We'll explain how it works. So pretty much you go in, you put your email address in, and it will identify if that email address has been identified in any data breaches.
And not just data breaches, if it's been added to a combo list.
Yes.
The combo list is often specific addresses from a country taken from like a big global leak. And so you'll get combo list, 1,000 Australian leads, and it'll be for sale on the big hacking forums.
Yeah.
Or there'll be a data breach from a game you sign up to or a service you have.
You'll also find it quite scary. You know, you may have not done anything wrong. You've been very safe in your internet browsing, and you type in an old email, as I did, and there's 15 incidents there.
Well, so your current personal email, how are you doing on that?
Fine. Work email, current personal email.
Yeah. So my work email's pretty good, but my personal email is 21 times.
Yeah.
21. That's combo lists. Like things like, I didn't even know that Lord of the Rings Online got breached years and years ago, but that my data went from
everyone's got seems to have the Canva one.
Yep.
Canva was huge. There's a few big ones. Yep. There's a few big ones that if you're in those, you're part of the majority.
I'm apparently French because I'm a part of a French citizens league. I don't know how that happens. But
combo list.
It could be a combo list, but also I probably signed up to something when I was last in Paris, didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
You know, membership thing and just, which is why I don't sign up to those things now. Actually, that's entirely possible. Wild. Anyway, but the thing is, the great thing about it, so it's just launched HaveIBeenPwned version 2, and it's not like we're shilling for it. We're not. It's just a genuinely useful tool. It's useful for everyone. It's also free to use. There are subscription tiers that give you more information, but it's a really, really slick update. Once you subscribe to it, which I also recommend people do, because then you'll get proactive alerts if your email shows up in a data breach, which is very, very handy.
Yeah.
And you have your own personal dashboard where all the breaches you're involved in are in, and you can keep track of those. It's just useful.
It is.
And what we use it for as well is if we're looking at a data breach on, breach forums, RIP, which is what we used to find a lot of this on, we'd go to HaveIBeenPwned and start putting in emails, and we'd realize, all of these emails come from historic data breach. This is nothing. Someone's shopping it around. It's not news.
Yeah.
But if we put those emails in and realize, oh no, these are unique, then it's something we can pay attention to.
Yeah.
So it's useful for consumers. It's useful for people like us. I know a lot of analysts use it, and Troy Hunt, the Aussie guy who runs it, it's clearly a passion project for him. And interestingly, talking about good uses for AI, he talked up AI hugely in how it helped him program and develop the new site.
As we're seeing, there's this massive wave of AI being used for coding, which is one of those things it will inevitably...
Yeah, he needed tricky stuff done. He asked, I think, ChatGPT to do bits for him. He confirmed it worked, done. And so it just made his workflow so much better.
Yeah.
And the really neat thing about the update, and I'm definitely going to be doing this, now have merch. You can buy a pwned t-shirt. And I think with 21 instances of my email being pwned, I definitely need to buy a
I'm not far behind.
t-shirt.
It's an email I no longer have access to, but 15 is pretty alarming.
It is alarming.
You know, maybe I'll join
Maybe we should change the passwords. Maybe as cybersecurity journalists, we should do as we say, that whole thing.
Yeah. I will say one thing and this is a little less positive, one thing I do want to see, and I don't know anything about this, is whether HaveIBeenPwned 2.0 has fixed some things security-wise. And not in terms of system security or whatever. HaveIBeenPwned was quite prone to DDoS attacks.
Yep.
And it's something we reported on a lot. Yeah. Obviously, threat actors are not going to be a fan of such a service.
They're gonna try and take it down just for the yucks and the bragging.
Yeah, because they can.
And Hunt was very, very transparent about a breach that the site had suffered.
Yeah.
And this is and it's easy to go, you'd think better security from the security guy. But it's not. Like, you're going to get hacked. It's what we say all the time.
Yeah.
It's not a matter
when,
of
not if.
If, it's when. And if someone as security conscious as HaveIBeenPwned Troy Hunt can be pwned, anyone can.
Yeah.
Yeah. So mostly good news and a bit of a warning. I think we're done there.
I think we are.
Nice short, sharp one.
Yeah.
Yeah. More agreeing and less disagreeing on AI murder suspect.
Yeah. We've gotten past that.
Yeah, I'm happy about that one. Anyway, thank you for listening. We will be back next week. I can't even tell you what we'll be talking about then because we never know.
No.
Thanks for listening. See ya.
See ya.